I was a religious Muslim until I was like uh, maybe 15,
So you
16.
prayed 5 times a day.
Yep.
You went to the mosque. You were
And
sincere. Okay.
prayed, fasted during Ramadan. Uh, I
And
never
your
got to
whole
do the
family was like
pilgrimage.
that as well?
Yeah, my mother wears a hijab. My grandmothers, both of them wear hijabs. My aunts wear a hijab. Everyone in the family, like I have 14 uncles. Like my mother has 13 siblings. My dad
Wow.
has six. So altogether, they're like about 20. Of course, some of them were dead before I was born, so I never got to meet them. But it was a very Muslim family. Like if you would go into my mother's house, you would see Islamic writings all over the wall. Some of them are painted, some of them are just like pictures, frames. It's something that followed me everywhere.
Welcome to Israel News Talk Radio's The Tamar Yonah Show. I'm Matt Zucker, Tamar's humble producer. What would you say if you heard that our guest is an Arab who was born Muslim and converted to Judaism? Yeah, that's right. And you can imagine it's a pretty amazing story behind that. I'd like to introduce you to Timor David Aklin. Timor is trilingual. He speaks fluent English, Hebrew, and of course, Arabic. His maternal grandparents are from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Yemen. His paternal grandparents are from Turkey, Jordan, and Syria. All are devout Sunni Muslims. Timor, on the other hand, is now considered an apostate, and everything goes along with being one, which will unfold in this exciting interview. Timor also runs a nonprofit organization, HIPS, Hidden in Plain Sight, where he advocates for Jewish rights in Israel using his unique leverage as a born Muslim. He strongly opposes Islam and has criticized its founders harshly. You can visit his website at www.hips.co.il. And now, without further ado, Tamar Yonah. Take it away, Tamar.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Timor. It's great to have you on.
You for having me.
All right. So I think that, people hear about an Arab that converted to Judaism. It's like, oh, wow, out of the box story. And so I think we should just get down to the foundation of you just telling us your background and growing up, how you were raised, and then how you decided you wanted to become Jewish.
I was born and raised in this very house here in Tel Aviv, Yafo. And I never really wanted to be a Jew. I never meant for this to happen. I never planned this. It happened. And I'm glad it did. It was definitely a very tough upbringing. And the way Judaism just clicked with me, it was surreal. It was almost biblical. I don't want to be arrogant or feel like, but I do feel like I have this connection between me and the Eloha. I say Aloha for Elo.
Elohim, God.
Yes,
Yes.
but I tend to say that more than Kim. I try to. It doesn't matter what I do. I always try to do it differently. I always like to make my own way in Judaism. Even my tzitzit is unique. I had it custom made. They're always like I have a short on one side and extremely long on the other one. Like it almost goes down to my ankle, but not. It doesn't touch the ground because you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to drag it. And how did I become a Jew? It was just a journey of trials and tribulations. And
okay,
I feel like
first, why don't you tell us
tested.
where you were born and how you were raised? Tell us a little bit about your background first.
Well, I was born and raised in Yafo. I grew up here my
That's
whole life.
Jaffa in English for those who don't know, right near Tel Aviv. Okay.
Right. So that's Jaffa. I was born and raised here. I moved out of Israel when I was 17 because I had like extremely high emotional intelligence, and I just felt like I didn't belong here. I felt like we didn't belong here as Arabs. It was strange. And it's not like I didn't feel like it's not like I felt like we should be kicked out or anything. That wasn't my mindset. But I just felt like there's Ritzono shel Makom, and Rabbi Yohanan says, בזמן שאנו עושים את רצונו של מקום, אין אף אומה או לשון שולטת בנו. בזמן שאין אנו עושים את רצונו של מקום, מוסרם ביד של בהמה שפלה. לא רק אומה שפלה, אלא ביד של בהמה שפלה.
Okay.
So basically, there's the will of a place, and the place has a will, and we have to surrender to its will, right? So some people say the Jews, Israel doesn't belong to the Jews belong to Israel. You know, they belong to this place, like this place owns you. And many people, when they say, for example, like they take it to an arrogant place when they say chosen people, but I always saw it in the sense where it's like the Jews are chosen to be slaves of God. The Jews are chosen to be
Servants.
to worship God. Servants,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
servants. Like they cling on to God, where other nations don't as much. But I felt like we all have our own connection to the Eloha, and we all have to serve Him differently. Like you said, servants. And I grew up as a Muslim, and it wasn't enough. I didn't feel it. The
Were you
prayer wasn't for
religious
me.
Muslim when you were a Muslim?
Right. I was a religious Muslim until I was like maybe 15,
So you
16.
prayed 5 times a day.
Yep.
You went to the mosque. You were
And
sincere. Okay.
prayed, fasted during Ramadan. I
And
never
your
got to
whole
do the
family was like
pilgrimage.
that as well?
Yeah, my mother wears a hijab. My grandmothers, both of them wear hijabs. My aunts wear a hijab. Everyone in the family, like I have 14 uncles. Like my mother has 13 siblings. My dad has 6. So altogether, they're like about 20. Of course, some of them were dead before I was born, so I never got to meet them. But it was a very Muslim family. Like if you would go into my mother's house, you would see Islamic writings all over the wall. Some of them are painted, some of them are just like pictures, frames. It's something that followed me everywhere. And when I began researching Judaism, and when I began feeling this connection towards the Bible and the Torah, I felt like so many things that I was doing already. It's just like I'm doing them in Hebrew. So in Hebrew, when we wake up, we say, "Modeh ani lefanecha melech hay v'kayam shechazar," you know.
Right.
So
Yes.
in Arabic, we have something similar. So when we wake up, we say, "Istabahna wastabah al-mulk lillah," which is like we have awakened, like we are awake and we have awakened to God's kingdom, to the kingdom of God, which is like the whole universe.
Right.
And eventually, I just I wasn't having it with Islam. I just felt like their accusations of the Jews didn't click because I was reading the stories. Also, as a kid, I would study the Bible too at school, but it wasn't a Jewish school. It was just
When you
part of
say the
the.
Bible, you mean what? The Quran or the Torah?
No, the Bible means the Bible, like Tanakh.
Okay.
That's what Bible means.
That's the Torah and all the writings, the prophets, etc. The Tanakh.
Exactly. Ketuvim, the Nevi'im. Muslims never refer to Quran as Torah or as the
Right.
Bible. It's just Quran.
Rightfully
the Holy
so.
Quran.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I ask you, I want you to slow down just a little bit because I want to ask you, you said that you started to get interested in Judaism. Did you have Jewish friends? You're in Jaffa, it's right next to Tel Aviv. There's a lot of Jews around you. You didn't have Jewish friends. So then what made you all of a sudden start thinking maybe Allah and Islam, it's not right. Maybe the Jews really have the truth. Like what brought you to that place where you even started to do research?
Arab extremism. I think it was Arab extremism. I think it was education that I received at school. That would teach us a lot of anti-Jewish stuff. It wasn't hostile to the point where they were educating us to go out and kill Jews or anything of the sort. I wasn't like raised in Palestine, because over there, like in Palestinian cities, I should say, it's very hostile. Like the actual curriculum at school, the syllabus, whatever it is you're learning, it always has like a Jew comes and kills an Arab, plus stuff, it's either math or science or whatever. Like they're always mixing stuff. It
okay,
wasn't like
I want to
that.
stop you there again. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but I think it's important what you're saying. I remember seeing math books years ago where they say you have 10 Jews and you kill 5 of them. How many do you have left? So that's that were actually the textbooks that you were learning from as well, or teachers?
No. No.
So
we had different. We had
up?
mild stuff. We weren't allowed to have something like that because at the same time we were under Israeli, the Ministry of Education. They have to approve our material and stuff.
Authority, right? Okay.
Right.
So
no, it's not the Palestinian Authority. In
right.
the Palestinian territories, it's like that, so they don't care. But in Israel, you can't have that. But you
Right.
could have the national anthem, you could praise Palestine, you could praise Yasser Arafat, you can learn the history where the occupiers came and occupied your land, kicked you out, murdered you. So that kind of indoctrination we definitely had, but it
Right.
was, like
Okay.
I said,
And
mild.
your home, was it a home that you were raised in where they were also a bit more peaceful and didn't like all the trouble that the terrorists and the slander against the Jews, they didn't like it as well, or they were lock, stock, and barrel in it as well, and you were different than everybody?
It's just they were two-faced. It was double standards. So on the outside, they would show like the average folk. They would show like, if they knew Jews, or just in public, you have an opinion, and at home you have a different opinion.
And
So
what
at
were they?
home, well, at home it was definitely very hostile, just like almost every single Arab home out there. Like every Arab home out there, it's like it's anti-Jewish, anti-Zionist. It's just dehumanizing Jews. So you don't have this so you don't grow this likeness towards them. But outside, they're like, oh, we deserve rights too. Oh, we should be equal. Oh, this. Because the way I see it is like this. It's like Arabs when they are, when they're a minority, they're like, we need more rights. Why can't we have more rights? Why can't you take care of us? When they have some rights, it's like, we should have more rights. Once they are like the majority, they're like, do as we say or else. So that's how I felt growing up. And I knew that, and they know that too. And it's just a matter of time before they're able to get that. Unfortunately, those who are going to help them with that quest are, I don't want to like tarnish anyone's, but it's the lefties. It's they're not cases. I speak to a lot of left-wing Jews, and I feel like they're a bit delusional in that sense, because they don't understand that the real agenda is to deceive everyone and just drive them to the point where there's no coming back, the no return point. And unfortunately, I feel like it's going to happen unless we do things that are meaningful, like the reform that we're trying to do right now, which is extremely important, in my opinion. Just today, I was
The
reading on the
judicial
news,
reform. Yeah.
yeah, the judicial reform. They're calling it a judicial overhaul. It's a reform.
So when you started to research about Judaism, did you have to hide that from your family? Were you kind of afraid and apprehensive to do that? Did you feel like it had to be secretive?
Not so much, because I was always a loner. I was always like a very quiet guy. I don't really mess with anyone. I keep everything to myself. I never really had friends growing up. I never had friends at school. I never had an Arab friend, like not even a single Arab friend. I never had a Jewish friend either. I got married really early on. I was 17 when I got married. I had my daughter when she was 19.
Was that an
So
arranged marriage?
no, it wasn't, but I was very religious and always thought, when you're 17, you should meet your partner, and then you should like learn to love the person you marry, and you should like uh, build a future together and grow together. And it's like your partner, and it's really like Lech Lecha, which is Parashat Lech Lecha with Avraham Avinu.
Right. A lot of our listeners that don't know Hebrew won't know what that is, but it's one of the story of Abraham when he leaves Ur Kasdim and he comes to the promised land. So so you got married. Are you still married?
No, I got a divorce when I was 20. When I was 21, basically, I was officially divorced. And
And
then,
did your converting to Judaism have to do with that?
no, no,
No.
no, 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 no.
Okay. So you converted later. At what age did you convert finally?
Wow, it's a really tricky question, because I received the official recognition only when I was 28, but there was like a really long process. So when does it really count? If you're praying for years, if you're practicing for years, if you're studying for years. So for me, it started when I was 21. When I was 21, around that time, I really enjoyed the lessons. I really enjoyed Rabbi Abraham Twersky's Zecher Tzadik Levacha. I enjoyed his philosophy. I enjoyed his explanations. I really fell in love with the Rambam's philosophy. And when I came across many secular Jews who were trying to like, they were trying to walk down Judaism and kind of like say things that aren't really nice. All the people from the Bikoret HaMikra, if you know them and stuff like that. So they were using some of the the guide to the perplexed, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
Rambam's book.
Yes.
So they were using it, and I felt like they were just like they misunderstood it, because for me it was like it was beautiful. I enjoyed it, and I felt like I was like, okay, well, first of all, it's in Arabic. It's for Arabs at the time, at least. It wasn't just for Arabs, because most of his writings were in Arabic, but he also had Judaic Arabic, right? There was like Aravit Yehudait, and sometimes it would be like Arabic that he would write in Hebrew letters. So he'd use the Hebrew alphabet, and then it would be like actual Arabic sounds. So I learned a lot from the things that he was teaching, and I felt like it was like a song. And every year, every month, every once in a while, it was like a verse that would just click, and another verse, and another verse, and another verse. And then I began having crazy dreams. And I never really, again, like I never thought I was going to convert. I never, actually, to be honest, I never thought it was an option. I never thought it was possible. Even when I was studying Judaism stuff, for whatever reason, the term ger, the term convert,
Convert.
yes. So it kind of like slipped. I never came across the word, and it was very strange because it's almost everywhere. Gerah Tzedek in Shmona Esrei, in the 18th, the prayer, in many things, in some of the stories. But it slipped for years, and then eventually I didn't want to convert, but it was so powerful. It was I just wanted to practice. I wanted one day I just wanted to be minyan, because it was, I don't know, all tefillot minyan nishmaot, all of the minyan prayers are heard, but it wasn't really. It's so difficult to explain why I did it. Sometimes it's also the hardest question, because that's what they ask you at the Beddin. So when you go to walk into the Beddin, they ask you like, why do you want to be a Jew? And I was like, uh,
Okay, I'm going to slow you down for a second. For people who don't know Hebrew, when he's saying that he wants to daven with a minyan, it means that he wants to pray with a quorum of 10 men. So you would go to synagogue and you have at least 10 men there. This is where you go to pray. And when he says he goes to a Beit Din, it means he went to a court of Jewish law, where the rabbis are, and they decide on the code of Jewish law. And they do also, they have a conversion court also, where they can convert people to Judaism if they feel that they're honest and true. Okay, so I just want to get your story straight. So you said you were raised in Jaffa. Your parents were typical Sunni Muslims. Your mother wears a hijab, so does the rest of your family. They didn't care for the Jews. They would talk nicely outside, but inside they would
praise terrorists.
They would praise the terrorists.
Most
And little by little, you just felt disjointed from Islam, and you started to look into Judaism, and you you just started to pick up books. Did you go purposely? Did you find a book? Where was that switch?
Kaddish. I heard Kaddish the very first time, and I was crying, and I couldn't stop crying for hours.
Okay, so Kaddish is a prayer that you say for the dead. Where did you hear that?
YouTube.
You went up on YouTube and just flipped up on your...
No, I didn't look up. No, it just popped up, and I heard the words, and I was like, why does it sound so familiar? Like, why are these words just like they ring a bell? And I started crying and crying and crying, and I listened to the Kaddish, I think, for about 3 days straight. And then I was going for a run, and the Kaddish was in my headphones over and over and over and over again. But it was a Yemenite Kaddish. And it is an extremely long Kaddish. It's not like the regular ones. So now I know all of the Kaddishim, and I can tell you where's the difference in every Kaddish, even the smallest letter. For example, the Yemenites, they say V'yimloch, and where in the regular Kaddish for Sephardim, Ashkenazim, they say V'yamlich. So for example, when they say La'illah in the Kaddish, for Yemenites, they say 2 times, La'illah, La'illah. So, but it's like le'elo, le'elo. So I know the accent, the Yemenite accent, everything is different. There are extras in the Yemenite Kaddish. For example, the big one, the Kaddish that they use all the time is not be'olamo di barakir. They say du'otid l'huddutho olamo. So it's all, but it was amazing. Okay, you're
confusing people because they don't understand that. But all right, so then you just started to get turned on to Judaism, and then you just started gathering more. In the meantime, you said you got married. And you had a daughter?
We had a daughter. Yes.
And
We have a
then
daughter.
when you were 21, for whatever reasons, you decided to part. That must not have been easy. I imagine in Islam, to get a divorce is a very big thing. Yes or
It
no?
was, yes, it was very painful for me psychologically to do that. I felt ashamed and embarrassed, and I felt like I failed, like in everything. Like I was
So
just
it was her
20, going
decision?
21.
It was her decision?
Uh, it was a mix. It was a mix because she wanted a lifestyle that didn't sit well with me. She was actually 4 years older than me, and she wanted to party. She wanted to party. She wanted to enjoy her life. She's like, I'm young. I'm not going to be young again. I want to go with my friends. So basically, one thing led to another. She went to a party in a lot, and then we started having this crazy feud at home where we were just fighting all the time because of her friends, because of the people she was hanging out with. And I was very childish and young, so I would use improper names for friends and be like, oh, these are your friends. These are the type of people you're with, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, you know what? We're done.
So your wife
And
was not wearing a hijab,
no, 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 no,
obviously.
no.
All right. So she
No.
wasn't such a religious Muslim. Okay. And so you
No.
parted ways. And then you said you just started learning more and more about Judaism. It was like a process. And when did you decide that you're going to go to a court of Jewish law, a Beit Din, and actually get a conversion? Did you go through a conversion program through a yeshiva?
I didn't go through a yeshiva. I went through a 3-year conversion program. It's meant to be 1 year. I got scared. I kind of chickened out. I didn't want to go to the Beit Din. I was like, I enjoy this. I enjoy the learning process. I enjoy everything. Why do I need to go there? I was just like intimidated, kind of, by 3 Dayanim who are sitting there. I was like, what are they going to say
Three
to me?
judges.
Yeah, 3 judges. So I was like, what are they going to say? Maybe they'll, I don't know. It was a scary experience just thinking about going there and meeting them. And then after 1 year, I went to do ptichat tik, basically opening a file. They open the file for you to make it official. So basically, you are registered at that point. You are now recognized. They know who you are, but you did not complete the process. But they know who you are. They know you started. So they have all of your information. They ask for my divorce certificate. They ask for my marriage certificate. They ask pretty much for a lot of stuff, and they ask me to just every document possible. And then afterwards, it was a very emotional encounter because I did not expect it to be very warm and welcoming by 2 Dayanim, by 2 judges. The third judge was not my friend. The third judge was like, tell this crazy Jewish woman who would talk to you into this that you're not supposed to do this. Okay. And
They thought you were in love with a Jewish woman, and that's why you
yeah.
wanted to convert.
I was single. Yeah, but they said that. And they
Interesting.
were like, yeah. And it's like, tell that crazy Jewish woman who's talking to all of this. I'm like, no one's talking to me into anything. I'm just like, I like it. I'm enjoying this. And he was very negative. And but one of the judges, he was about to retire, and he said, I feel something, and it was really interesting. And he said, it was during Parashat Vayeshev, and Parashat Vayeshev, it's about Joseph.
Yes.
So he was telling me, I'm thinking about Joseph right now because it's the parasha, and I'm thinking about you, and I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking about how Joseph became the governor of Egypt, and his words were, like he became, they were so influential, and I'm looking at you, and I want to believe that this is sincere. I want to believe that you are real. I want to believe that what you're saying is true. I want to believe that you are not playing me, you're not playing us. And I hope that it's true. And if that's the case, I would like to welcome you to the Jewish people, and I would like to welcome you to a world that is full of good, because I know you belong here. And so it was very motivating. So I got emotional at that point. And then the other judge, he was also kind of supportive, like, you need to be serious. You should get married this year. You should find yourself a good girl, settle down. Like, I still didn't finish conversion. And he's already looking for a shidduch for me. I'm like, well,
A
give it some
match.
time. Yeah. As
And was this
crazy
was
journey.
this like you know, a lot of people are going to ask, was this a kosher Beit Din? Was it a kosher court? Was it from the government of Israel in Jerusalem?
Yeah, it was the main rabbinate of Israel. The main.
Okay, so it's completely
הרבנות
kosher.
הראשית לישראל.
Okay, all right. And
Orthodox.
so you said it took you 3 years to finally convert?
Yes.
All right. Okay. And did you feel in any way that anybody was suspect, that because you're Arab, maybe you're trying to infiltrate into the Jewish people and, I don't know, be a double agent or something? Who knows?
Yeah, just on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
So your peers on the social media thought so, but not the rabbis.
No, not my peers, just total strangers would draw assumptions and make accusations, and to this day, some of them do. But no one during the learning process did that. But because I would ask questions all day, every day, you know, I was on the phone. To this day, I'm talking to my teachers from school. You know, it's called Nativ. Nativ means basically routing, Nativ path.
Yes,
I think. So I went to that school, and I had 3 different teachers over there: Adiel Ben Shachar, Ephraim Oren, and Shira Hirschenzon. So it was crazy, because at one point I told them, look, I don't think this will work. Like, I enjoy all of this, but I don't think they will accept me. I don't think I will be accepted. I don't think the judges will accept me. I don't think I'll be accepted. It was like, listen. So Shira was telling me, she's a Rabbanit. So she would be like, listen, those who are going to love you and accept you are going to love you and accept you because of who you are, and not in spite. Mm-hmm. Do you understand that? I'm like, yeah. And it's like, what you're doing, I know you're researching, I know you're studying, I know you're looking for answers, I know you're in this, so I believe in you. And I got so emotional. I was like, but she barely knows me. She only knows me for a few months. So how? And then Oren and Adiel, and they were so supportive. They're amazing people. And by Ruach HaHalacha, by the spirit of the Halacha, you're not really supposed, you're not really supposed to help converts so much or encourage them, because basically you're supposed to make it really difficult for them, so they don't really like the idea of converting, so they don't join. You kind of like want to break them down, so they don't
I want to stop you for a second there to explain to our listeners that because Judaism doesn't encourage, we don't force people to convert to Judaism. If you want to be a convert, the custom is that the rabbi will tell you no 3 times. He'll send you away 3 times. That's a custom, because they want to make sure that you really, really, really want it, because it's hard to be a Jew. And they're always worried that also that maybe someone wants to become a Jew because they have ulterior motives. They want to marry a Jewish boy or a Jewish girl, whoever goes to convert. And it's not easy to be a Jew. And if they're going to take you into the Judaism, they have to know that that it's like, I just want to be Jewish. I have to. I want to die if I can. It has to really burn inside of you. And if it doesn't burn inside of you, if it's not your passion that you really want to be close to God and serve God as a Jew, because you can serve God as a Gentile. But if you want to become a Jew, you have to really, really invest. And they want to make sure that the person is straight and honest and sincere, because if he does later on, or she later on, they convert and then they stop doing the mitzvot, they will, as a Jew, there's a consequence to it with God, so they want to prevent people from sinning also, because again, people do not have to be Jewish. You could be a righteous Gentile, and that's fine with God. You're still God's child, and God loves you. Okay. All right. So when this happened, what was the reaction of your family? Did your mother sit Shiva in the Islamic way? Like what was with your parents?
She thought it was a joke. I wasn't we didn't have a great relationship. We never had we never had anything. She didn't really raise me so much. She supported me financially growing up as a kid. She bought me books, she brought me clothes, she got the food, but it was my house. It was a house of war. It was a literal house of war. My uncles were criminals, gun owners, drug dealers. My mother was kind of abused because she was a single sister. She was also divorced. I never knew my father. I was kind of a house slave in my grandma's house where all of her children lived there, because it was a massive house. It was a house that was like 3 stories. She had about 10, 11 bedrooms. So it was when she found out, basically we made an agreement. There was like a meeting between me, her, and her brother, and we said, okay, like we're all dead to each other. And I said, that's fine by me, because according to halacha, you guys are not my family anyway. And so when I went to the Bedin, because I spoke to the judges, the Dayanim, multiple times throughout the journey, I didn't go to a Bedin, I did not go to the Jewish court for the final process where they test you and everything. I had, like, for example, Rivka, uh, she was like the secretary over there. She would like talk to me. I would try to learn, how's it going, how's your learning process going, how are people accepting you, are people realizing what you're doing, what are the Arabs like, I'm like, the Arabs are not accepting me the same way they'll never accept you. Why are we even talking about them? They're irrelevant. Let's talk about something that matters. So my family did not accept that. I had one uncle who told me, someone who converts, it's a death sentence. And I said, so be it. That's literally
So
what I told
did
him.
they put a fatwa out on you?
I don't know.
A death edict?
I don't have.
Have
It's
you
very
ever gotten
difficult to
any
these
death
things.
threats from anyone?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I've received death threats in person. I've received death threats. Someone tried to stab me just over a year ago outside of my house. A couple of them, sorry. A couple of them tried to stab me. They tried to jump me outside. Um,
For
a
that
couple of
reason?
months
Because they know that you converted?
because I converted, and because I do some of that Israeli advocacy stuff. I run a website. I have my videos. I'm very vocal in my support
So what
for a
happened when they
Jewish
tried to
state.
stab you? What did you do? What happened?
Well, Baruch Hashem, he gave me limbs, power, strength. Some of them call me Shimshon, but I, no,
Overpowered them?
yeah, yeah, they weren't. I'm a martial artist. I began practicing martial arts when I was 15. I
Wow.
used to live in Thailand for 5 years. I used to box really big
Huh.
African Americans who are very talented, much more talented than these Arabs, are very powerful, very strong, very
Wow.
technical. Yeah, my self-confidence is through the roof when it comes to physical stuff, but I never really fight. I can count the amount of fights I had on the street, and they're like around 0, 1, or 2.
Wow.
Confidence does speak volumes sometimes.
Okay, I have a whole list of questions here, and I'll let you say anything that you want to say afterwards too, if I didn't ask you something that you want to talk about, okay? But I know, I told a few people I'm going to be interviewing you, and so some of them had questions. So one of them says here, well, this is my question. I want to ask you something on the positive side. What is the best thing about being Jewish that you found?
The best thing about being Jewish that I found, I feel like I became closer to God. And I feel like, most people take that for granted. And yeah, that's probably the best thing.
Are there other Arabs that you know that have converted to Judaism?
I have met other Arabs who were either in the process of converting or have converted. They weren't my friends or anything. They're just people I met, but their motives weren't good.
Their motives were not good?
No.
Why? What
There's
was their reason?
They either had a Jewish girlfriend or something of the sort. They were just doing
Interesting.
it to get married. No, they put a kippah on for 5 minutes to take it off afterwards. I've met some fake converts as well. I've met converts who are definitely not into the Jewish lifestyle. I was very vocal about it. I wrote like a massive letter to the Bet Din before I even converted. And I said, this is what you call conversion, Kedat Moshe Israel. I wrote them like crazy letters, and I would quote Chazal, I would quote the Rambam, I would quote here in the letter, and I eventually I kind of soothed myself to the point where it's like, all right, like we kind of have to. I don't want to do anyone the kaf zchut or kaf chova. That's what we
To
say.
give the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, exactly. So give the benefit of the doubt, and people say everyone makes tshuva eventually.
Everyone repents, returns
Everyone
to God.
repents. Right.
So let me ask you this. Did you ever try to missionize other people, for lack of a better word? Like, do you ever try to like tell other Arabs or people, wow, you know what, this Islam stuff, you really should check out Judaism?
No, no. I did try that with Jews though. I did try
Uh-huh.
that with Jews who are anti-Jewish. So I was really into Kiruv, but the more I tried, the sadder I became.
Yeah, I hear
So,
you. I hear you.
so
Are people that you meet now that you're Jewish, are some of them like suspicious of you when they hear that you're an Arab that converted to Judaism, that you're an Islamic, you were a Muslim Arab that converted to Judaism? Do you think that some of them might think that you're a spy or a plant or?
a spy, definitely not, because I don't have the ability to spy on anything. What am I going to spy on? Do people suspect me? Sure. I'm sure there are people like that. I don't really think about these things. I let that slide. It's so irrelevant for me. It's like small politics. It's
Okay.
not doesn't phase me at all.
So on that question, what's the most frustrating thing that you often might face, not just converting, but also speaking up for Israel as you do in the social media?
I think it's the mockery of Jewish things that are like misunderstood, because it's so easy to misunderstand Jewish tradition and Jewish culture from just like davening, like going back and forth. People don't understand that, so they make, false claims, fake stuff. Unfortunately, there are some Jewish people. I don't know if I can call them Jewish, maybe ethnically, but there are some Jewish people who are anti-Judaism, and they go and they spread false information. There was this one priest, a Christian priest, who became Christian. He said he was originally Jewish and stuff. I used to watch his videos many years ago. I even forgot his name. It was like 8, 9 years ago. And some Arabs, for example, would use what he says. He demonizes, everything. And it's just people like that. I don't know.
It
These are
frustrates
things that
you.
are it frustrates me, because it's like, I know that's not what it is, but it's so hard for me to explain to you right now, and I kind of don't have 3 days to go over this.
Yeah, right.
so
I hear you. Right.
so sometimes I feel this. But one of the things that are really difficult for me to understand myself, I think, is when the people go to Kivrei Tzadikim, so graves for saints. Some people, sometimes they kind of overdo it, and that sometimes is difficult for me to explain. Someone sends me a clip, and I'm like, explain this. I'm like, well, I don't know how.
Uh, this is a question from a listener. From your perspective, do most Arabs in Israel and the Palestinian Authority support terrorism, or would most prefer a peaceful coexistence with Israel? I think you kind of
the
already answered
vast
that, but go ahead.
Yeah, the vast majority definitely support terrorism. The vast majority, I would say over 90%, are extremely happy when Jews die. The reason we don't have that many terrorist attacks, is because, not some people don't have that hard power to go out and carry something, and some people kind of like value their own life, and they don't want to go out and risk their own life. They have so much at stake. So it's yeah, the vast majority. The people aren't really interested in coexisting. They're just interested in like having a high lifestyle, or a lifestyle that just matches their desires. So sometimes they
What
can
do
have to
you?
play possum.
I hear you. What do you surmise is the root of terror amongst the Arabs in Israel and in the Palestinian Authority, in Gaza, etc.?
I want to say it's Islam, but we also had some Christian terrorists in the past. Unfortunately, someone said that on my videos, because in one of my older videos, I said I don't really recall that many Christian terrorists, and the guy just pulled like 50 names. I was like, where did you get them? So apparently, some Palestinian nationalists who were Christian were kind of uh, okay with Islam being the cultural centerpiece for the Palestinian people, while not really practicing Islam or worshiping Allah. but anti-Semitism is global across the Middle East. It's everywhere. It started with Muhammad. It definitely started with him.
You're
He
you're,
massacred the
you're
Jews.
likening it with anti-Semitism, and we know that Muhammad also was a huge anti-Semite, wanted to wipe out the Jews when they wouldn't accept his version of his religion.
It
But
was successful in Saudi Arabia.
but the Muslims also use terrorism, 9/11 against non-Jews as well. So how do you fit that
Well,
all together?
I think they associate the big devil and the small devil, right? The big devil that is America and the small devil that is Israel.
Right.
Or it's the big devil that is Israel, but it's tiny, and the small devil is America that is carrying out Israel's will, the big devil. This is just the way it goes.
Okay, so basically it's a tactic that they
It
use
is.
that for their hatred. Okay. Do you think that Israelis are in denial when it comes to keep trying for peace with the PLO Arabs? And what are we missing?
For sure. We have no idea how damaging it is every time we're trying to make peace with them because they're not interested in peace. We should just listen to them, listen to their words. There are plenty of recordings, plenty of interviews. They have said that so many times. They are not interested in peace. They said, there are actual recordings of Palestinian officials, high ranks, who said if we had a nuclear weapon, it would be in Tel Aviv tomorrow, exploding, So we would detonate every Jewish city out there. We would not leave a single Jew. They would be swimming in the sea. So it's I don't understand how they don't see that. I mean, I think they see that. They just they overlook that for whatever reason. And I think they just want to be so Western and European, and they're trying to run away from every Jewish inch of them. They just don't. I
They're more
don't know. It's so
universal.
frustrating.
They don't
Yes,
have a Jewish education, and they've been brought up as leftists, which is in a sense very universal. No God, right? Communism, and
I
do what
think
you
they.
want, and liberalism in a bad sense, not in the good
I think
sense.
Yeah, I think they have some Jewish education, just a negative one, I think, negative towards Judaism, but they don't have like the real proper Jewish education because people who live in Tel Aviv definitely know Jewish stuff, but
So have you ever been in an argument with an Israeli saying, look, you don't understand, I'm an Arab, I'm telling you that you're never going to have peace with him because of A, B, C, D, E? Have you done
I
that
have.
before? Have you
Yes,
won
I
those
have.
arguments or what?
No, they wouldn't
No.
listen. No,
Uh-huh.
they said I'm delusional.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Interesting.
crazy. Yeah.
Um, you concur that there was never such a thing as a quote unquote Palestinian people that the Arabs here claim to be. So explain that to our listeners and why.
Sure. Let's say people who live in Jerusalem and people who lived in Haifa and people who lived in Gaza, they weren't the same people. People who lived somewhere in the south, somewhere in the north, they were just like people that were scattered from all over the place. And I've heard the stories growing up. This family came from that part of the world, that family came from that part of the world. And most Arabs who are here are not really indigenous. Like some of them came a couple hundred years ago, some of them came 100 years ago, some of them came 300 years ago. Yes, I know that during the Islamic conquest in the 7th century, when Omar came to Jerusalem and conquered Jerusalem, the Muslims came here and they were like Islamizing this place, and Arabs lived here for like 1400 years, but they weren't the majority, in my opinion. And even if they were, their numbers definitely weren't that great. Um, Most Arabs who came here during the past few centuries, it was just for work because, it's a great location.
But it was a desolate country. There were very few people here, even in the time of 1948 during the War of Independence. There were less than 1 million Jews here, almost half
Yeah,
that number.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Arabs even,
Of course, in
less.
terms of population, in terms of numbers, the numbers were low. I don't think like you had millions here or anything. No, you had people, but if we're talking about um, races, I don't think there's no such thing as Palestinian people. It's just it's absurd, and they know this. There's nothing that unites us. There's nothing that makes us Palestinians. We don't share nothing. We have nothing other than the language. And like I took a DNA test, you know, my DNA test says I'm Coptic. I'm basically 66% Coptic.
Coptic, which is Egyptian Christian.
Which is Egyptian.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's like, according to the DNA results, like it goes back 4,000 years BC from Egypt. But I also have some, it's insane. I have some Jewish DNA too. It shows Libyan, Karaite Jew, Tunisian Jew, Yemenite Jew, Moroccan Jew. So it's crazy because my family, like, if you Google my last name, you can actually see that my family here was here from like the 1700s. Like they were in Haifa and Akko and Acre, and it's DNAs are just interesting. It's like you just stare. It's just cities, countries, and your nations, and you're like, how
did all these people get together? Yeah.
Yes.
I have to say to our listeners that my father, when he was here, he's a Holocaust survivor. And when he came to the land of Israel, it was under British occupation. And when he was here, if you called an Arab a Palestinian in those days, they would take umbrage from it. They would be insulted. They would either say, I'm a Southern Syrian or I'm an Egyptian. And the Jews were the Palestinians. That if you said Palestinian, that meant Jews. And my father was a Palestinian on his passport, etc. So it's just quite interesting that they only started calling themselves Palestinians in 1964, which, by the way, is before the 1967 Six-Day War, when we liberated Judea and Samaria. So there was no quote unquote occupied territories at that time, but they still wanted to kill us. And that was with Yasser Arafat, who, by the way, was born in Egypt and nothing to do with Israel.
Yeah.
It's just
my grandma used to say, they used to call themselves Muhammadin, like the people of Muhammad. That was their name. Yeah. They said, I asked her grandma, like, what were you before Israel? Because like I used to go to a Palestinian school. I grew up and I went to Palestinian school until 4th, 5th grade. My principal, my high school principal, not high school, it's just school. Her name was Mary Kupti. And Mary Kupti, by the name Coptic, Kupti, she's Egyptian, crazy. So Mary Kupti was a Christian. It was St. Michael's Greek Orthodox school. So we would stand in like a perfectly straight line every day, like militants. And we would sing Mautini, 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 which is like my homeland, my homeland. It's like Palestinian national anthem. And like everything in our school was Palestinian. We had the Palestinian flag everywhere. We would paint, and we would like write songs about Palestine. So she had like an agenda that was to just like enrich this Palestinian culture that didn't even exist. She was creating it every day, and she was a Christian. It was a Christian Greek Orthodox school. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what is your future? You're not married right now. Are you looking to get married? Start a Jewish family, raise Jewish children?
Yes, of course. You know, I want to raise beautiful kids with beautiful peot. I want to watch them run around the house.
Peot are the side locks.
Yes,
that men wear. Yeah.
And I don't know if they were my kids in my dream, because many years ago, many years before I even contemplated converting, I had a dream where I was on the Temple Mount, but there was nothing there. It was just the mount, and it was just rocks, and I knew it was the Temple Mount. It was strange. It was like a mixture of old and new, and dreams are like really, you know, they're slick. You know, sometimes they just like stuff slip out. You don't really know how to explain them or how to remember them, but they're slippery. But it's like I remember kids running around with those side locks, and they were singing to me. And I was walking there, I'm just singing and singing. I was dancing with them, and I heard the muazzin, like the Arabic muazzin, you know, the Allah Akbar, but it wasn't in Arabic. It was in like Aramaic, and it was beautiful. I think it was one of the most amazing dreams I ever had. I'm a dreamer. I dream a lot. I dream often. I dream almost every single day. I use cannabis to stop the dreams because many dreams are traumatizing. I had like a really rough childhood. I have a medical license. I was treated before. I went to, you know, I had a psychologist. I had, I don't know if I want to talk about this, but I had a really rough life. I had multiple suicide attempts, so they put me on psychiatrists too. I had to go and meet them. They would try to give me pills to, just help me because I was very depressed. And the real medicine, the medicine that helped me the most was Judaism. It saved my life because it's crazy melancholy, and then it's just now that I think about it, it really was it's the one thing that really brought me serenity. It's the one thing that brought me peace, and it made me. I went home when I converted. I always feel that. I always say that to people, like, I'm home, but sometimes you go home, you knock on the door, and you feel like a total stranger. And that's how I feel sometimes when I try to explain to people why I converted, because nobody really buys it. You know what I mean? The religious ones accept and love and hug me. Haredim, for example, which is like my favorite community, is I love everyone. Don't discriminate, but the Haredim are the ones who, "Ata Yehudi, you're a Jew. You've always been a Jew," which is what I said to the judges, the Dayanim. Like when they asked me, "Why do you want to convert?" I'm like, "I've always been a Jew." So that was my answer. I've always been. I don't know. I've always been. And then when I got my DNA tested and I saw that I actually was a Jew, I was like, it has to be real. And the Kaddish and the way he was just playing and it spoke to my soul, and I'm crying, and the way I just enjoy this, and I enjoy the prayers, and I enjoy the PU team, and I enjoy the singing, and I can sing and pray alone at home, and I'll feel like I don't need anyone else. I don't feel like I don't need anything. But in terms of like marrying a Jew and living with a Jew, it's really difficult for me to explain and get into it because I'm an Arab. If I were something else, sure, marrying a Jew would be so easy and cool, but there's this traumatizing stain that comes with you being an Arab in Israel. Unfortunately, society. Also, I've met a convert. I didn't know him personally, but I came across a convert, to be more precise. Um, an Arab converted to Judaism, and he was basically our own Simon Levayev, if you know that guy. Do you know who that
Yeah,
is?
I saw the
So yeah,
series. Yeah.
I did not see it, but I just see the name everywhere, and I kind of
So you're
got the
saying he was a
gist.
faker?
He was a faker. He was playing a lot of Jewish girls. He was taking their money.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, he was kind of good looking, and he converted. And so it's painful for me whenever I think about it because I didn't do this to marry a Jewish girl, but it's just like the cultural differences, the upbringings, the way I feel like it's going to be so traumatizing for the kids when they grow up. They're you have an Arab dad, you have this, I don't want to hurt them.
You
So
think
I always tell
so?
myself,
You think
yeah,
so? I
yeah,
don't think so.
yeah. I think
Israel
it's
is such a
different.
multifaceted society. You've got blacks marrying whites and Ashkenazi marrying Sfaradim and older and younger and from immigrants marrying, born Sabras here. Anything goes here. Israel is such an open
All races.
society.
All races are great. Judaism and Jews accept all races, except for this one that is right here in your face, who's trying to kill you every single day. It's very hard to trust this one, and I don't blame them. I get it. Like whenever, I had multiple traumatizing stories with Jewish women. I had one where I went on a date with a Yemenite girl, and I was I was trying to tell her how much I love the Yemenite culture because like I embraced it. I've adopted the Yemenite culture at home. I do everything Yemenite. My Siddur is Yemenite.
Right.
Halal is the name of our Siddur. Uh, I do almost everything in Yemenite except for the Slichot because I really like the Iraqi version for the Slichot
Okay.
and the Sephardic. And I
And
was
so
just
what
telling
happened
her
with
like,
this girl?
so we went on to a restaurant and like we met, we clicked, and it was just like total. It was just coincidence. And she insisted we should go out like real soon because I was like, okay, we can do this sometime in the future. Because I was like, all right, we can just talk for a while, and then somehow I can slide in this little detail about me being an Arab. And then I was like, yeah, like yeah, I got time. So we went to a restaurant, and then we went to a restaurant to eat. Same evening, So after like 35, 40 minutes, we're talking, everything's great. And then I was just like praising the Yemenites and the Yemenite culture. It's like, wait, what are you? She asked me this question. And I said, I'm an Arab. And she just stared for like, I believe like 5 or 6 seconds. And she's like, oh my, my dad is he's from, my dad just got back from Papua New Guinea. She just literally said, my dad just got back from Papua New Guinea. Okay. She got up and left. And then I had similar encounters. Maybe they weren't as funny or as
but you know what?
elegant.
I understand how you can have more obstacles in front of you. I do understand that. But I do think that there's that one for you called a Besheret. And you just got to keep on plugging away. And God's going to bring her to you, the one that's meant for you. I mean, that's my advice as a Jewish mother. Just keep plugging away. Perseverance, as they say.
Perseverance.
Okay. There's another question here. And then if you had the power, let's say you were the king of Israel, or the prime minister of Israel, and you had complete power to be able to solve the terror in Israel and somehow make it peaceful and safe for everybody living here, Jews, Arabs, Christians, everybody, whoever is here, to not have to have terror attacks, etc., what would you do?
First of all, I would get rid of the Palestinian Authority. I would disarm all Arabs. I would annex the entire state. I would make it a Jewish state. I would basically, I would guarantee equal rights for everyone. Everyone would be equal, except for the right to vote, because that would demographically change the face of the identity of the nation, the identity of the state.
It's also against the halakha that non-Jews don't have voting rights in Israel because Israel's a Jewish state.
Yes, right. So yeah, that's about it. I think that solves everything. It's, people are so scared.
Disarm them, dismantle the Palestinian Authority, take all the guns away from the terrorists. And what about people who still want to do terror? If they don't have guns, there were terror attacks before there was a Palestinian Authority, right? People made bombs, people threw rocks which killed people. What would you do with that problem?
Well, they would have to practice their own Islamic version of Kaddish, but they don't have it. But unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. Criminals are going to be everywhere. You have crime everywhere.
So you wouldn't do like a, what's the word? A transferring these Arabs out of Israel that hate Israel?
I would transfer the ones who hate Israel and are open about it. If you're vocal about it, then you got to go. But if you are not, if you're just an Arab, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But if we suspect, if we have some sort of a hint, if we can see that there's something that is linking you to terror, then you got to go. Mm-hmm. You don't belong here. You're going to take people's lives, innocent people who did not harm you, who did not choose anything. They were just born here or live here, or were forced to come here because, there's so much anti-Semitism around the world.
When is the last time you saw your mother or your family?
My family, in terms of family, I only have a mother and a sister and a daughter. My daughter, we don't meet often. We do talks from time to time on WhatsApp.
How old is she now?
She's 11, turning 11. It's crazy. Time flies. My mother, we don't really see face to face or eye to eye. If I remember one time I saw her in a grocery store. I don't know if you know Chetzi Chinam, which is like our version of Walmart. Basically, it's like a massive place in Rishon LeZion, which is a city. And I was just there, and she saw me with I was wearing the tzitzit over my shirt. Some days I wear it over, some days I wear it under, some days I don't wear it depending on what I'm doing. If I'm doing like stuff that are extremely physical and I'm sweating a lot, I'm like, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ptilim yafim, because everything is like teal, blue. All of my
she saw you wearing tzitzit in the store, and what happened?
I looked like a proper Haredi because I had the black jacket, a white shirt, and a tzitzit over it, and I was wearing like Rabbi Nachman kippah, yarmulke. And she just saw it and she's like, Astaghfirullah al-Azim, Astaghfirullah. She started making these sounds and started like sweating. She got out and left.
So she didn't hug and kiss you, and
No,
No.
my mother did not hug or kiss me since I was 5.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I hear you.
But yeah, no, no, definitely not. No,
Wow.
we don't
Do
have
you
that
have
kind of relationship.
siblings?
I have a sister.
A sister. And how is
Yeah.
she, what's your relationship with her?
It's not good. It's not bad. It's just we're brothers. We brother and sister. Uh, she's married. She has 3 kids.
Does she
She's
see you
living
as
her
a
life.
threat? Like if you went,
No,
no. Like if you
no,
went to visit her, she wouldn't think, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be killed or
no,
targeted herself
no,
because
no,
of
no,
you." Uh-huh.
no. Because
Interesting.
they're Muslims. They're proper Muslims. They're practicing. They're doing everything the way Muslims do. She says she's Palestinian and proud. She has a Palestinian flag at home. She has a Palestinian key of return above her door when you enter
Huh.
her house.
Uh-huh.
So does my mother. It's crazy, Imagine like a picture in Ramadan where they're breaking fast and there's like a Palestinian flag and a Jew walks in with an Israeli flag and tzitzit and everything. But it's we
What's
don't
with your
have that.
father?
I never met my father. My father had a troubled past. He was deep into drugs and he eventually killed himself. So
Oh,
I never got to, yeah, I never met him.
sorry.
That's okay.
And how old were you when that happened?
He killed himself when I was 13, 14, but he never introduced himself during those years. I met him once, but I did not know he was my father. I saw him at a bus station. But when he died, and the police, they usually come, they knock on your door to offer their condolences and tell you, father's dead. You should probably go see him. That's what happened back then, because he was found dead in his home. Um, yeah, I was like, I know this guy. Is that my dad? I met him once at a bus stop. So that was strange. It's strange because you're not allowed to listen to music or anything after someone dies in Islam and stuff. And I remember I just went back home. I sat down and I was just listening to Breaking Benjamin, which is like a rock band, for like a couple of days. I was trying to click everything, piece everything together. I was like, how do I know this guy? This guy's so familiar.
Hmm.
But that's the
Wow.
only thing. These are the only memories I have of my father. I have a couple more memories, but they're very violent. It was a very violent when I was 5 or 6. Um, it's because my mother, she ruined his life. My mother, her brothers actually ruined his life, not my mother. My mother was just the vessel they used. Um, they conned him. They kind of like used him as a scapegoat. And basically, he got foreclosure for hundreds of thousands. Imagine like in the 90s, it was so easy to just con people, right? It's easier to fake checks. You can just send out checks everywhere. You didn't have BDI like today. You didn't have ERN. You didn't have all these extra measures to secure the deal and make sure no one's getting robbed or getting like
Right.
scammed. So they scammed him and he was very depressed because he kind of lost his life. But some people say he lost his life way before that when he began hanging out with people that weren't really good for him. And, he took some ecstasy and he just went down the wrong path and
When you
threw
said
his
that
life away.
when you said that your family was involved in crime, you have some uncles that are criminals.
Hmm.
Can you share with us what kind of crime you're talking about?
Drugs, guns, protection. If people know what protection is basically when someone knocks on your door, it's like, "Hello, I'd like to protect you. Protect me from what? From myself."
Right. Mafia.
So yeah,
Mafia.
so that's mafia. They just tax you. So they
Wow.
tax businesses, do similar things. If you want to go and build a house in their neighborhood, for example, they would make sure they will make it extremely uncomfortable for you to be there. So you kind of have to pay them to live there. So that's an extra rent you have to pay. So
And
these are the
nobody tries to
things.
stop. I mean, not even the Arabs themselves don't like this. Nobody tries to stop them. What happens?
What do you mean the Arabs don't like this? The Arabs do this.
I mean, the Arabs don't like to get that knock in the door saying pay protection money or else. The
Yeah, but
regular
Arabs,
Arab citizens.
but they don't do that to Arabs.
Ah,
They do that to Jews only.
oh, the Jews who live in Jaffa.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Interesting.
To demoralize them, so to demotivate them, so they wouldn't really move to Yaffo. to Jaffa.
Wow, that's interesting. And so the police stay out of the neighborhood. They don't get involved in this.
The police only helps those who are either wealthy or really have good connections. But sometimes the wealthy ones are the ones who don't mind paying. They're like, I'll pay for this peace of mind. I got the money. I got the funds.
Wow,
So,
that's interesting.
yeah.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to talk about, that you wanted to share with people?
I don't know. I didn't prepare for this or anything. I just wanted to come freestyle and see what you want to talk about. And you know, I'm glad to talk to you. Malka mentioned you many times, and is you know, it's an honor. I always enjoy when people you know, are interested in my story and they want to hear about this and hear about my journey. It's, you know, it's great. I appreciate you.
Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Malka for putting us together, because I didn't know about you. She was telling me about you, and it was a fascinating story. I said, wow, you know, yeah, let's do an interview. It sounds great. And so she connected us together. So thank you, Malka. And okay, so I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing your experience with us. And I think that it's important that people take away hearing from you that there sadly is no way to have peace with people who hate you, who are anti-Semites. And I know that the whole thing, the whole issue of anti-Semitism is really big today, especially in the West as well. And people think that, you know, we just have to do more hasbara. We have to explain to people that we're really good people and you shouldn't hate the Jews. But you know what? It has never worked in history where the Jewish people have been able to win this war against anti-Semitism. Never. We always lose it. And the reason that we have anti-Semitism, just put this out, is because it doesn't make sense that people should hate us like this. It's a godly thing that God put into the world. Whenever the Jewish people are veering off course, we're not being the people he wants us to be, then we have anti-Semitism, which reminds us that we're Jewish, that we're not like everybody else in the sense where we are to assimilate. God didn't take us out of Egypt to be, as Rabbi Kahana used to say, to be Hebrew-speaking Portugal. He wants us to be the Jewish people, an Am Kadosh, a holy nation, to spread light to the world, to bring all of humanity up. And we should see the Mashiach soon. We should see the Messiah soon. Please, God.
Bezrat Hashem. I dreamt about him. I dreamt about Rav Meir Kahana Zecher Tzadik Livracha many years ago, before I even converted. It was really interesting because at that time I wasn't really the biggest fan of Israel, but it was a crazy dream because he came. It was crazy. I think about that dream a lot. He was going upstairs. There was like stairs, and he was going up, and he was breathing heavy, and he was like sweating, and he goes like, "I can't catch breath." That's all he said to me.
Was
And
this
like,
after he died, where he was killed?
Of course, he was killed in 1993.
Right.
He was killed in the 90s.
All right, I forget. You're
he
young.
was killed.
You're young.
Yes, I'm sorry. I turned 30 just last month. I turned 30. But I have one thing I'd like to say.
Yes.
There's this thing that is called the Israeli-Arab deception. And I feel like that's a very dangerous one. Most people think that, you know, these Arabs really want to be part of Israel, but that's not true. It's just, it's all artificial. It's made believe. It's not coexistence. It's mere existence. So I would like people to keep that in mind, because most people think just because there are some surveys out there, you know, there's like this survey that says only 7 or 9%. Well, that's not true. That's a fabricated number that someone made up. But there are surveys out there who say that nowadays there are less Arabs who identify as Palestinians, and they identify more as Israelis. But that's not true. It's just like, you can't trust these numbers.
Did you want to finish the dream of Rabbi Meir Kahana, Zichrono Livracha, before we go?
It was crazy. He was going upstairs. It was in a building, and in the building was a tower, and the tower was dark, and there were shadows, like they were just like lurking everywhere. And it was like the tower was underwater, and there's like water everywhere, and it was weird. It was like, I remember this dream of, and he was going upstairs, and he goes, "I can't catch a breath, and help me." That's what he said. "I can't catch a breath, help me." But I wasn't a Jew. I wasn't practicing Judaism. I didn't know much about anything. And I wasn't a fan of his. I'm an Arab. This guy, like the way Arabs describe him, the way they paint him, not a positive image. But he said that, and I felt for him in the dream. It was strange. It was genuine. He was like saying, "Help me." I don't know what it means.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Well, I want to thank you very much, Timor. And if there are any available Jewish women who are looking to get married, got a nice, handsome Jewish boy here, Jewish man. And
thank you, Tamar.
Thank
My
you.
birth name is Tamar, so it's crazy.
What is it?
My birth name is Tamar.
Is Tamar? Really?
Yes, Tamar.
Does it mean the same thing in Arabic?
It means the same exact thing, date fruit.
Uh-huh. Wow. So if anybody missed that, Tamar is the date on a palm tree. And the name Tamar is they say it's very tall because the tree is tall and righteous, like straight, like a righteous and righteousness. And one person described it to me. I was taking a tramp, a hitchhike when I was in the army. Somebody, he asked me my name and I said Tamar. He says, "Oh, so hard to get to the fruit, but once you get to it, it's so sweet."
Awesome.
It was a
That's
flirt.
awesome.
It was a flirt.
Okay.
Well,
and Timor is also Tamar. I'm just saying.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the Tamar Yonah show and for sharing your story with us. And God should bless you. And you should be able to find your soulmate soon and build a Bayit Ne'eman B'Yisrael, a true Jewish home in Israel, and have a good life. Please, God.
May God bless us all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, to make sure you can get access to all of our interviews, make sure to hit the subscribe button on both our YouTube and Rumble channels. Your click makes us all stronger. Thanks.